Okay, so I look back at the sequence of play, and it is how I thought it was, which is you draw from the cup, you do your maneuvers, you do your combat segment, you go back up, and it's not really nicely distinguished. This should all be indented, I think, or something into one segment. But the maneuver segment in the rules is explained that way. I think in the earlier rules, but I don't really remember, but I've pieced through them. I think there may have been sets where you do all the fire combat at once, because I remember something about alternate, or at least Melee is done this way, where you alternate between people. That reminds me of the old where is it, Wellington's Victory over there, and Ney versus Wellington, which by the way is it's not a system I'm fond of so far, but maybe I'll get into it. But they're coming up with new games for it. I don't remember what company it is that's doing it. I'm sure somebody will comment. Okay, so a few things, and I'm going to be coming in and out with the video for this. But first thing is, I've decided to drop these into place as needed, which is to say, it's too hard to try to track down where all these pieces actually should be, and since I have no setup rules for them, this is what I'm just gonna do. When I need some ammunition, I'm gonna drop a couple of wagons and say they're there. You know, and at some point I may decide to deploy the rest of them. So right now, I need an ammunition wagon with a range of 11 for these guys, and they prolonged forward. And I need one with a range of 12, and they have to be from these formations to go with this. All right. I've also kind of cheated the leader up a hex, because without him there, I can't fire these two artillery together. These two are going to have to fire separately, because I only have one artillery leader down here, and I didn't get the leader movement shit, so I can't like split a leader off of there. Okay. So what do we do now? Well, our range is 11 hexes to these guys from these, and 12 hexes to him. Not really sure I want to do this, but I'm going to try, and that happens to be the maximum ranges of all these guns. Now, that's not their actual maximum. They have an extended range at which their strength is weaker, but we're going with that. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire these two first, and then, you know, I'll do the others offline. So they're going to have to spend 2 ammo, and these wagons each have 6 ammo. Once they're all spent out, they have a chance of resupplying as long as they're on a road that goes back to a depot, a term which is not defined in the rules. I'm going to assume that even though the rules are designed for this game having to do with this, these are like specific to Dresde, these wagons, although they may show up somewhere else. I'm just going to define that as going off a map edge that makes sense, you know, which is pretty much anything along, really any of that. Anything on the other side of the Elbe, I'm going to be okay with. I might have some questions about that, but whatever. I think there are forces up that way. Okay. So now what do I do next? There isn't a good sequence of play for this that I'm aware of. I switched videos because nothing too detailed here. I got used to the On to Paris, which had a nice combat sequence built in. Well, I could use a sequence for this to just catch all the different things that I have to worry about. And I may start making some little scratch sheets that fit me. But now, in order to look at the firepower, I'm going to be looking at, oh geez, yeah, there are a lot of numbers here. So I'm at long range. Let's put this here so I remember where I am. Look. Okay, long range is going to be the lower left. Those others are all other things. Sorry about the speedy swing. That's bad. All right, so that's 18 strength points firing into here. Okay. What is the defense of this? Well, first, fire effects table. These are, I think, Russian artillery, but I don't think that matters. I think the numbers are just in there. The artillery is not, I don't know what Opolichny is, but something weird. Okay, what's the fire defense value of this thing? And this is pretty easy, actually. So this is going to be, looks like some kind of infantry in line, I hope. I don't know, maybe it has a range, in which case I think it's in skirmish formation. Yeah, it has a range on it, so it's skirmishers. And that may be what this little horn on it means. I don't know. Yeah, where'd we get them from? I think they were over here. All right, so those are skirmishers. And they're in the clear. So they have a base defense that looks like a 14. A raised road or rubble road? Ooh, we don't know. I don't think I'm crossing any of those road hex sites. This is kind of a sunken road, but it's not marked as one because it's not just the road that's in the ditch there. There's more in it. Okay. This all looks like it has nothing to do with what I'm looking for. Okay, so I've got a defense of 14 and I had an attack of 24. And I'm going to need calculators for this game. No question there. All right, well, 14 to 24, or 24 to 14, is going to be 1.5 to 1. So let's mark that somehow. Oh, geez. We'll get more interesting dice at some point or another, but right now these will work fine. Okay. So now I have a point of leadership here. I don't know what that does. I haven't been able to find that. Sum of all fire factors, locate the odds ratio. All right, I don't see anything about the attacker bonus for the artillery. And I assume there is one. So we'll leave alone for a little bit. I conceivably started with some of my artillery stacked with the leader in order to fire. I'm going to leave it as it is. What I found, I could not find it in the Dresden rolls, but what I found was over here in my regulations year 22, which aren't entirely the same, is that there's a modifier for leader artillery bonus when firing artillery, which is plus or minus. There could be a bad number. So I'm going to go with that. It's probably what people who are used to the system are used to. And I guess I just roll on this 1.5 to 1 table. I can't think of much more to go. Blue is going to be my tens die, so I get a 46, which goes up to a 5-1. And that's going to be a hit. Okay? And yeah, you know, we're not going to be doing this in this kind of level of... Okay. So I've hit that unit, and that's going to go underneath, but... do I have to make a morale check? It's an odd loss on a French unit, so the answer is yes. So, but what penalties does it face? I don't know. That hopefully will be in here. as a result of casualties from combat as called for in the special rules. See, there are no penalties there. I seem to remember... Oh, depots. Aha! Here we go. Russians and Prussians, the high road von Pirda near Gross Dobritz. There's got to be a pier somewhere. I don't see no Gross Dobritz. There's Gross Dobritz. This one. Okay. All the roads go at the same place. The high road von Dippelschwad, which I think is this one here, coming down here. And then on the 27th and 28th, and I don't know why these are red and these aren't, things don't change. Oh, yeah, they do. The Prussians stay on that one, but the Russians move down to here. Okay. I'm looking for morale modifiers, though. That's square modifiers. Interesting. There we go. These are modifiers for specific things. All right, we're going to have to look in the morale rules now because we don't seem to have a chart for it. Or in the Regs 22, which seem to have more of the charts that the system's supposed to have. I'm able to find anything in these rules for morale that directly has them. I believe there were modifiers scattered throughout the rules, but there doesn't seem to be a singular. However, there is one here, and it has all kind of useful stuff. And it looks to me like we just make a straight up morale check. All right. And this unit's morale is, I believe, 26. We have. It would be useful if they had a player aid, lots of player aids, right? That had these, but this indeed is the morale value, and we'll get used to those numbers. So, all right. So we need a 26 or less, and we have no modifiers because there's no leader or nothing. We need a 26 or less to fail. So we're fine. And if we were at half or less, we'd have additional problems. Okay, so that was one shot. And if and when we shoot at this thing, it gets to do counter battery fire. It gets to do a counter battery return fire, which French ammo is handled a little differently. It's kind of by a die roll whether or not it's depleted. Okay, these Prussian guns, I fired one of them instead of both, and it was pretty ineffectual. It only had 6 firepower points going into 14, which means I need a 65 or 66 to get a shot at all. And yeah, I decided to withhold on the one that might generate counter battery fire because it strikes me that fire by the Allies, because of their ammo situation, is more troublesome. I'll put this somewhere. And we have actually resolved the first chit out of the cup. And it only took us, a little over an hour of video time. Actual play time, add a couple hours, but that's because of the rules lookups and this, that, and the other. So, and honestly, no, add another 30 minutes. But, this is not a sign of how the game is going to continue. It's not going to take, an hour to move a couple of formations. But it isn't going to be a quick game by any means. Resolved, I think, one chit completely. Now we start drawing. And we get something special. Action chit reinforcements. So now these troops come on the board, and they do so without having any commands spent on them. Next turn, they'll have to have those spent. And I'll just slide them along. These guys obviously have to head up that way because they have some kind of requirement to exit a couple of units there. And that chit's accounted for with 2 columns coming on. Neither's fully on the map yet. because of the spread out road order. It's a little weird doing the, hey, you know, I've got, I don't know, somewhere in here. Here's a size 7 unit. So that's going to have 4 and 3 in its hexes. And I think I'm allowed to stack and overlap a little bit, even though I don't have a leader anywhere. So everything has 4 increments in its hexes. That's how I'm doing it. It wouldn't make sense to say you can't completely fill the road, I think, at this scale. And that's what it's trying to capture. Other games don't do that as well, even when they have road columns, like the NBS series uses the same road movement optional rule as CWB does, where there's just certain increments, sizes that fit on each road, a C-size unit, I think. And you break a unit down into those increments. And you don't worry about a little bit of overage here and there, which probably makes sense too. I can live with it either way. This is a little bit more burdensome, as is everything in this game, with probably very little actual effect. Alright, next chit. And I want to show the chit pull because it's so weird. Okay, so now, okay, maybe it's not that weird. Now we get a French unit. And I don't have to actually find it. I just have to find all the French units. And they get their option to move. What's weird about it is, if I drew an Austrian, an Allied unit, nothing happens. That seems odd to those of us who are used to chit pull. And it's probably odd to the people who are used to the regs, where it is regular chit pull. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with the French. I don't see anything they terribly want to do, but I better look it over. Now, I prolonged the artillery and moved the other unit here just a little bit to get a better arc down there if they come in. I don't think I've got a shot. Maybe I do, in which case we'll stop in order to resolve that. It looks like it's probably blocked. Yeah, cuts through those woods and that hill there. There's a little channel here, which, here's the thing, there's no opportunity fire there. And this is always an unrealistic thing when it happens. So the Russians can run by there and not get shot. Opportunity fire is limited to, you can see, when you've got hex counter, when you've got hex vertex and side facing, that starts causing problems. But this is the granddaddy of all the translations from, you know, minis to a tactical board game, really. At least in the gunpowder era. And I always credit TSS, but this is the real one. Unfortunately, it's so minis-like that I don't think it ever really has, it never had the opportunity to have the same reach. Anyway, so the point is the Russians can run through here, never get shot, but if their movement landed them here, the same speed of march, regularity, etc., would open them up to a possible fire. So here's what I'm doing kind of wrong. I should be leaving those core, maneuver unit markers in place, because anything with them is not eligible to be used during, there's some kind of readjustment movement marker. Unfortunately, I like to clean things up. I'm going to probably have to get out of that habit. I probably also shouldn't just put these up here, because I'm going to have an annoying situation where I have to count units again at the beginning of next turn. The problem, though, with that is I can't just use the counters that I used last turn, or this turn, because some of those counters are the Cav initiative counters, and that makes it so that there's no easy way to maintain how many counters I have. I may have to start keeping some paper records of information like that. So we're on the next counter. And we have to draw all these until we get the 4 there. So this is a maneuver unit. Well, there aren't any maneuver units. Where is this? 15, did I pull that one back out? Yeah, that's the Cav unit that got a chance. Okay, 1, that's an Austrian or an Allied unit. We already moved the Allies. Okay, here's the next one. It's the leaders. So now all the leaders who aren't part of a maneuver unit, who weren't defined as part of such, can move around. This is probably the hardest of the shits for me to act on right now, because what I have to do is I have to take these big stacks of Allied leaders and disperse them to where they're going to be actually useful. In some cases, that's aide-de-camps going and taking command of a force that, you know, I want to define for some purpose. In other cases, it might be sending the artillery guru, if he's here, over to here where he can do some good. I'm trying to think what else. I don't know if I can think of anything else. I believe the mystery of these counters has been solved. In the regs year 30, which I do not have, it was pointed out that in section 5, which is where they spell out what the different units are, and say, you know, all the different infantry presentations represented here, etc. And what the numbers are on the counters, they spell out that each artillery piece starts with one of these suckers adjacent to it. Awesome. My solution probably works too, but that didn't make it over into the Dresden rules. In fact, didn't make it anywhere in the Dresden rules as far as I can tell. The rules that were present in the regs here got moved into the fire combat rules, and they make sense there. They're explaining what the different numbers on the back mean, and they all have to do with fire combat except for the morale check, I believe. There may be a melee number in there too. But in doing so, since the rules for setup for the scenario, which for all scenarios, which were plugged into the base rules, since A, they don't really apply to Dresden, and because the French don't have these, and B, it's kind of a fucking stupid place to have your setup rules. There should be a general setup rule like there is, say, in the gamers games, that's repeated and tells you this is how you set up the game. And that kind of thought put to getting players actually started on the game instead of trying to hunt back for all the pieces. I mean, if you tried to write up what you had to do to set this thing up, you would immediately realize this game is not going to appeal. Like 95% of wargamers who give this a try, opening the box, even if they're really interested like I am, probably are going to say, fuck this, man. I can resell this piece of shit. You know, I unfortunately can't resell things. I don't believe in that for some twisted reason. So I'm stuck playing it. It is beautiful though. I keep telling myself that. Beautiful fucking mess. You know, it's like that heroin addict who's just so fucking hot. But you know she's gonna rob you blind and probably stick a knife in you. Okay. Oh, what do we have here? So, yeah, so I have an answer to these, and I'll try to figure out how to resolve it. We're not that far in. So what's funny is my Regs 22 do not have this. Apparently these things didn't exist yet there. I'm not really sure, but it certainly doesn't have it in that rule. Maybe it has it later on under the artillery fire. I didn't get that far this last reading before I decided, you know, I'm rereading the same stuff, and yes, it's presented better, but it's not really clearer. But it is a good place for me to look for things I can't find in these rules, because there seem to be other things that are omitted or only present in one place that's not terribly easy to find, whereas they're presented better here where you can find them in multiple places. I think I got all the artillery ammo wagons as per the make sure these are right. As per the regs from year 30 rules in play. Now, I still have a lot that aren't allocated yet. Those may be reinforcing units that aren't on the map or something else. They may never show up. Who knows? You know, we'll try to do our best. Oh, I missed these guys. See, I've been trying to get and this is the artillery reserve, so that's probably a bunch of them. All the chits have been pulled for this turn, and there's really nothing else to do. We hit the recovery segment, or reorganization segment, which I believe is unlike the combat segment, not sort of combined with maneuver. It's a post-turn thing, and we'd have you know, some basically recovery from bad morale. What's weird here is recovery from PGD then leads to recovery from disorder. That leads to an ordering, and maybe the rules say differently, that implies that you can go from what is essentially the routed condition in this game all the way to good order if you make successful checks. There may be a prohibition against that. We'll see when the time comes. No assault or melee. Ooh, wait, no, that's combat. Cav readiness, remove charge markers. Nobody did anything with Cav that would cause a marker change. Morale level adjustment. This only happens every hour. No, it looks like you do a reorg. Looks like you do a reorg as well right after the maneuver in combat. So this is all sort of one thing that should be kind of indented a little bit, but whatever. That's not what I got from before, but maybe I misread the rules. That would not be beyond my capabilities. Actually, it's not specified there. Yeah, the active phase, the active side does do its reorganization altogether. So it's almost an I go, you go for these. It's just a matter of the ordering, and that has to do with this one. So we're actually done with the first turn. Yay! This goes to 620. And yes, this took a lot of time. Yes, there will be other turns later where there's more going on, where more time will be spent. But this took a lot of time because of lookups. I expect the first times we start seeing some mass battles, they're going to take huge turns. Maybe a lot of video on them, we're not sure. But at some point or another, the turns are going to speed up a little bit as well. Maybe not in comparison to this one, but in terms of, because I know the rules better, I'm more comfortable with what I'm doing. Anyway, let's send this one up so that we can start the next one at 6:20. And we may actually get to a point where we're running through turns more quickly if not much is happening. Like the next few turns, there might not be much coming on the board, much happening, a couple artillery shots like there was on this one, until I start deciding where my assault's going to fall. And with this wing or whatever division really heading up that way more or less, these units moving up that way, I'm going to focus on an attack there. I also have more stuff here. Again, I'm going to hit the flanks of the French position rather than dead on in the center, for good or ill. You know, there are negatives to it, which is that I get to the meat quicker through here than I do going through there. Here's not too bad. There's not much terrain there. But here with this whole Friedrichstadt there, that's going to cause some difficulties in terms of movement, I'm sure, in terms of combat. And, yeah. All right. Up it goes.